Hi, can I just please check that I'm coming through okay, that you can hear me? Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Diplok. Yes, you are audible.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Kilenga, can you hear me?
Yes, Chairperson, I can hear you. Good evening.
Okay. Let me try and switch to another device now, because this one, it keeps on losing network. I'll quickly switch to another device.
No problem, Chair.
Yeah, quickly switch to another device. But I'm not gonna log off up until I'm accepted on that side.
Okay, no
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. I'm not gonna log off. Uyandiva Kilenga?
Yes, Chair Ndiakuva.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've tried to use another device. I hope that okay. I have been losing network. Okay.
Yes, now from my side, the network is poor.
Yeah, I think the weather is also adding. Can I check if all members are in, Kilenga?
Yes, Chair, we have 5 members that have joined the meeting.
Do we
I saw
manage the
NG, so I'm not sure the 6th one is Honorable Gasa. Can she confirm if she's in the meeting? Because I saw an NG, so I'm not sure if it's her or not.
No, it's not T.
Oh, okay, all right, let's.
I think, let me do a roll call, Chi. Let me do a roll call.
No problem, Chair.
Okay. Honorable Direko, are you in the meeting, ma'am?
Recording in progress.
Honorable Direko, are you in the meeting? Okay, silent. Honorable Makasi, are you in the meeting?
Good evening, Chair and everyone. Yes, I am present.
Okay. Honorable Nalumango, are you in the meeting?
Yes, Chair, I'm present.
Honorable Mkunu, are you in the meeting?
Yes, Chair, I'm present.
Thank you. Honorable Diblock, are you present?
Yes, Chair, good evening.
Thank you and good evening. Honorable Peach. Honorable
Hi, good
Peach.
evening. He's
Honorable
present,
Peach.
Chair. He's in the
Come
meeting.
again?
He is in the meeting, Chair.
Kalok, I want to hear his voice.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Honorable Peach,
Proof
are
that
you in
he
the
is
meeting?
here.
Okay, maybe he's still busy. Honorable Kasa, are you in the meeting?
Apologies, Chairperson. Can you hear me? It's Member P.
Yes, but you sound very far, Honorable Beach. Can you just increase your volume? I can see you, Honorable Manaka. I can see you, ma'am.
Yes, Chair. Okay.
Okay, I can see you. Honorable Mkize, are you in the meeting? You can switch off, ma'am, your video just for network purposes, ne? Okay. Honorable Mkize, are you in the meeting? So we do not have MK present. Honorable Jonas. Oh, Jonas,
Apologies, colleagues. I cannot hear anything. Are we still continuing?
Yes, we can hear you, Honorable Beach. Can you hear me, colleagues?
We
Yes,
can hear you
Chair,
loud
I
and
hear
clear,
you.
Chair.
Oh,
Yes, we can.
okay. Maybe it's Honorable Beach who's got a problem. Honorable James Honorable James, are you in the meeting?
Evening, Chair, present.
Okay, thank you. The time now, okay. It's 6 o'clock. Honorable members, I think now it's 4 minutes past 6. Let me take this opportunity and welcome you in this meeting. This is a continuation of a meeting that we had on Tuesday, where we were left with 4 presentations from the entities. Let me welcome all of you. Here, I am not sure whether there is a delegation from the department. Are they all present?
Chair, Minister and Deputy Minister Singh are in the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. So are the entities present in the meeting?
Yes, Chair, I saw some of the board members and the CEOs, all the 4 CEOs from the entities are here.
Oh, okay then. Okay. I think let us zoom straight to the agenda. You have flighted the agenda, Kilegane? Okay. Okay. Can I check if there's any apologies?
Honorable Peach's hand is up, Chair. I'm not sure if we should attend to him first or you want me to table the apologies.
Can you call Honorable Beach Kilega and tell him that we can hear him,
Okay.
but he sounds, yeah, because apparently he has a problem. Honorable Beach, can you hear us?
Yes, I exited and re-entered. Thank you, Chair. It seems to have
Okay.
sorted itself out. My apologies,
okay.
Chair. I am
No,
present.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable. Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear now. Thank you. We apologies, Chileka, is there any apologies?
Just one, Chair, from Honorable James from the PA. He's traveling. I see Miss Gasa from the MK is trying to join the meeting, Chair.
Okay.
So
then.
I'm
Oh,
sure Mkize will join us also during the course of the meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay. Members, is there anyone who's got an apology or colleagues before I move to another item? Okay, let me just check if there's no hands. Okay, there's no hands. Okay, I see that there are no further hands. Kilega, can you go down straight back again to the agenda? Go down, yes. Okay, so we are now going to move for the adoption of the agenda. Can I get a mover for the adoption of the agenda?
Chair, it's Honorable Nalumango. I move for the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you, Honorable Namulango. And is there any second?
Chair, Honorable Makasi, I second Honorable Nalumango.
Thank you,
We
Honorable
adopt the agenda.
Makasi. Thank you, Honorable Makasi. I heard that the minister and the deputy minister is in the meeting. I would like to check whether the minister wants to say anything before I hand over to the first presenter that will be doing the presentation. I see that we will have Source that is going to do the presentation first. Minister or deputy minister, do you want to say something before, or you would wait for the departments to present, the entities to present?
Chairperson, just wanted to say thank you very much for inviting us back to go through the entities, and we look forward to the engagement. Thanks.
Thank you, Minister. Okay. Can I give over to the chairperson of the board of Source? We have some few words before we get the presentation.
Good evening, Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee. Can I just check if you can hear me and your fellow members?
Yes, we can hear you, sir, loud and clear, but can I request that you switch off your video?
Oh, okay. No, not a problem.
Okay.
Is that better, Chairperson?
Yes, sir. We can hear you now. You can continue, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Good evening to you, Honorable Chairperson, members of the Portfolio Committee, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, Director General, and colleagues. Chairperson, please kindly allow me first, on behalf of the South African Weather Service, to extend our sincere and warm congratulatory message on your appointment as the chairperson of the committee, and we would like to wish you well. Chairperson, it is our pleasure to introduce the South African Weather Service Annual Performance Plan for the financial period 2024-2025. This APP, Chairperson, focuses on the entity's strategic matters that are in line with our broader mandate. Timeliness and accuracy of warnings, alerts and advisories, investment in research and innovation, infrastructure maintenance, as well as public awareness programs are the priorities of this APP. Chairperson, with me, I am accompanied by our acting CEO, Dr. Jonas Mpepia, who is standing in on behalf of our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Isham Mabada, who is currently on leave. Chair, I've got with me the Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Norman Muzizi, the Executive in charge of Corporate Services, Ms. Petro Decker, and Mr. Ruzani Marara, who is the Acting Executive for Infrastructure and Information Systems, standing in for Mr. Ndabambi, who is also currently on leave. Chairperson, South Africa, like many countries, face a multitude of risks in the years ahead. These risks range from economic instability to social and environmental challenges. The country is particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, including increased droughts, flooding, and a rise in temperature, which will have significant economic, social, and environmental consequences. The effect of global warming continue to bring about increased extreme weather events, with undesirable and devastating effects on, amongst others, food and water security. The South African Weather Service will continue to play its role in the provision of early warnings and climate information for the benefit of vulnerable communities and economic sectors of South Africa to allow them to adapt to the effects of climate change. Insufficient funding for the entity's long-term sustainability remains a challenge with which the South African Weather Service is confronting head-on. The effects of COVID-19 on the country's fiscus continue to be felt as budgetary constraints are felt across the public and private sectors. The South African Weather Service has, however, gained much needed injection of capital investment that will be utilized for the stabilization, upgrade, and expansion of its critical meteorological infrastructure such as radars, as well as upgrade of its information and communications technology infrastructure such as the high-performance computing. With the utilization of this capital investment into critical infrastructure, the South African Weather Service will be able to regain its competitiveness and improve its effectiveness in discharging its mandate for the safety of lives and safeguarding of property against meteorological-related risks. Chairperson, during 2023, our disaster risk reduction system warned of extreme weather events in both the Western Cape and in KwaZulu-Natal and assisted in reducing loss of life. In 2024, the source continues to be a provider of life-saving weather and climate information for the country and its citizens, with impact-based weather information disseminated to even the most rural and vulnerable communities through various communication channels and stakeholders. Allow me, Chairperson and honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, to request our Acting Chief Executive Officer and the Chief Financial Officer to present the summary of the South African Weather Service Annual Performance Plan for the financial year 2024-2025. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paduli. We can hand over to the presenter, the acting CEO. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, member and ministers, deputy ministers, CEOs and DGs. I'm not sure whether the secretary will be flighting my presentation. Let me try and flight it. It says host disabled participation.
Sorry, Mr. Mpeya, can I request Chileka to assist with flighting your report?
Thank you so much.
Chair, I was advised that Mr. Mukhapi will be flighting the slides for SOS, and I've given him the projecting rights.
Oh, okay then. Mr. Mukhapi, can you flight the report, please? Is he in the meeting?
Yes, Chair, he was when I admitted him. Yes.
Yeah, okay. We do not see anything. You can continue whilst you are still busy uploading, because we do have the presentations with us.
Okay, I can do that.
Yes, whilst you are still trying to upload it, because we want to follow you.
All right, I'll be on slide 2. The first slide is just the introduction, where, as the Deputy Chair said, that I'm standing in on behalf of Mr. Abada, who's on holiday. And the second slide just try to state where we get our marching orders. Like most of the public or all the public services of the department, we are aligned to Section 24 of the Constitution, or Section 24 of Chapter 2 of the Constitution. And we are Section 3A entity according to the PFMA. And the objectives as stated in the Act itself is we exist to maintain, extend, and improve the quality of meteorological services. And here, when we're talking about meteorological services, we're talking about all the services, whether aviation, marine, or normal weather forecast, and the ambient air quality related information for the benefit of South Africa. We also have a dual mandate, that of providing a public good service and a commercial service. And again, the other important objectives of South African Weather Service is to ensure that we collect the meteorological and ambient air quality both inland and surrounding oceans, not only for us, but also for the future generation. And again, one must state that for one to provide all those services that I've mentioned above, the foundation for that is research, wealth of research and innovation, as well as state-of-the-art operational network. As a Met Office, we are solely reliant on the network, where from time to, I can just mention that we have close to 11 radar, lightning sensors. So we are reliant on a heavy network, and also the computing capabilities that come from our ICT infrastructure. So those are the things that we use to make sure that we can provide timely meteorological services. I can move over to the third slide, where we're saying that the work that we do are aligned to the two developmental agendas. The first one that talks to the education, skills, and health, as well as the social cohesion and safety. And with the first one, there we're talking about ensuring at all times that we've got a functional national air quality monitoring network. And again, ensuring that all the information that goes to our South African air quality information system is timely available for use by different stakeholders. And with regard to the social cohesion, is we're making sure that at all time we have, we're looking at our safety of our community and ensuring that there's accurate, timely impact weather messaging that reach those that are vulnerable. So those are the two priorities coming from the NDP that we are aligned to. So looking at the fourth slide, which talks to institutional policies and strategies, there we're looking at the long-term financial strategies and regulatory consideration. As an entity of government, we do rely heavily on government funding, close to more than 50% coming from the government grant allocation. And with, of course, the sluggish growth of economy and decreasing formal employment, that does have a huge impact on our ability to generate revenue and to ensure our long-term sustainability. And what we have done was to have developed a strategic commercialization strategy, turnaround strategy that we're currently implementing, trying to ensure that we can generate revenue for the commercial part and to ensure that we cover the shortfalls. And again, we're also looking at a possibility of regulation for the provision of meteorological service. Currently, it's only the aviation sector that is regulated. So there are measures in place to look at the marine side or the marine industry to see if we can also have a regulatory regime in that space so as to help generate the revenue that we so seek. And again, to improve our, just to increase our revenue, we're also exploring opportunities or possibilities of having a separate commercial entity that can help us drive, the commercial endeavors of SOurce. If one looks at slide 5, it talks to the vision, our mission. Our vision is to be an authoritarian voice on weather-related services, and try to achieve that by providing sound meteorological solutions so as to improve the quality of life for all South Africans. By ensuring at all times we come with tailor-made solution for weather-related solutions, whether it's climate or air quality and other environmental-related solutions. Of course, core to that, or the softer part that will ensure that we can achieve whatever the mission is, the core values, which we strive to have integrity, collaboration, solution-oriented science, and passionate for service excellency. Those are core values that you enshrine in our company, in our organization. If I move to number 5, slide number 5, we have 4 strategic objectives. The first one talks to the enhancement of our methodological body of knowledge, which is aligned to our research unit that from time to time or all the time, generating or ensuring that we look at our predictive capabilities by developing precise, reliable, real-time value-added solutions. And again, ensuring that we comply with national and international obligations. We are a World Meteorological Organization and a CAIO, and we need to, at all times, to ensure that the standards that are being developed in those international fora will align to them. The other strategic objective talks to the solutions provided to meet the user end. Here we're trying to say that whatever we do has to meet the need of the users and ensuring that whatever is produced is timely meeting the users. And the other one talks to the optimum core technology. I've said earlier on that we depend on a huge infrastructure, and that infrastructure has to be optimally operating so as to ensure that we can provide timely weather information. And the last strategic objective talks to what we may say the support unit that strives to look at excellency and the excellence that we need within the organization. So I will not go through all the other some of the strategic priorities in all of them. Let me move over to the next slide, just saying that what were the process followed in coming up with this. Of course, we did have a board session, and we also looked at various input from stakeholders. And also we had to reduce some of the targets as guided by the minister. And also one must mention that although we have retained the priority area for air quality station, it should be mentioned that we are having challenges of vandalism in that area. And there are various interventions that we're putting in place to try to mitigate that. Some of them or will include us having to relocate some of the stations. But let me just then go to and unpack some of those strategic objectives. That are there are 4 of programs. One that talks to the core business, weather and climate, and talks to the warnings and alerts, and where the main output there is to ensure that lives and property are protected against meteorological related risk. And there are several outputs there. All of them are related to the core business of the organization. First one is your normal weather forecast. Second one is talks to the aviation forecast that has to be received timely. And the last one talks to the marine products that has to be also can be to receive them. So all that that you have there in that slide and the outputs are linked or ensuring that we can work towards achieving the outcome of protecting lives and properties. The next slide talks to a second program that supports those services that I've shown in program 1. And there we're looking at continuous development of new products. Some of those products are used for enhancement of the public service, and some are used for where we can commercialize them, or maybe products that we can sell So that is the aim of that program, solution development. So we've got various targets throughout the years. The next one will be on program 3 that talks to the infrastructure. Like I said, and repeating again there, that we depend on a huge infrastructure that has to be optimal, operational. And there we have 2 targets or indicators. The one that talks to the percentage of greenhouse gases availability. There is a site in Cape Point, our Global Atmospheric Watch, that track and trace and measure greenhouse gases. And we do have close to 11 radars, of which 8 are tier 1. We call them the tier 1 radar. The tier 2 radars are those that are a bit old radars, C-band radars, that we are gradually, we no longer have space, and then we're gradually taking them out. So that is the target that has to be reached at all times to ensure that we can provide now casting products.
Excuse me, Doctor.
Yes.
Dr. Pepper. May
Yes,
I
Chair.
request that you just zoom straight to the key focus areas and the budget? Because I think us
Your time.
going slide by slide, it might take a lot of time. Just zoom
Okay.
into the key focus areas and the budget so that we can also have other entities to present also. Yeah.
Okay. Do that.
Please, yeah.
And I
Don't
think,
just like that.
okay. I think, Chair, I was just about to finish. I was just dealing with those that are for the others are the support, but one of the most important one on the support side is the one that talks to making sure that the information that we produce can reach out to the community and also the education side of things, because we can produce weather warnings, but then if they don't reach the community timely and they don't act on them, then there's no need for having that information. So I'll then move over to the risk and mitigation side, but there I'll take them as read, because what we did was to then look at some of the risk and then look at mitigating plans that will ensure that we lessen the impact of those risks. And I'll then ask the CFO to come in and talk to the last 3 slides, Chair, because of time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening.
Okay, thank you. CFO?
Good evening, Chair and honorable members. I'll start with the projected income. And there are 5 important things that I just want to mention. Just to indicate that our infrastructure is old and aging and needs to be replaced. And the other one, as you can see from the presentation, is that our equipment are susceptible to theft and vandalism. And we had an impact of COVID that reduced our income. And when COVID hit us, in those first 2 years, we could not invest in our infrastructure. And now, Chair, when you look at the income statement, the first year is the 2022-23 figures, the audited figures, and followed by the 23-24, which are currently being audited. And we've got the next 3 years, which are over the MTF figures. Now, the revenue is divided into, the top part is the government grant OPEX, which is about 47%. And we also have government grant CAPEX, which is about 24%. And both government grants, OPEX and CAPEX, it's 74%. And we also provided the figures just to indicate that we were not immune due to the challenges that are faced by the country. We also had these budget cuts of 54 million for 24-25 and 42 million for 25-26. In total, over the MTF period, it's about 141. Now, Chair, we provide dual mandate. One is public goods, where you will see the information that we provide on TV like SABC, and then that is funded from the government grants. We also have a mandate of commercial revenue, and as you can see, the commercial revenue, we've got the statutory one and the non-statutory one. Now, the statutory one, we call it the aviation income, because this one is regulated, and we've got a body, regulating body that monitor the tariffs that we charge. Now, for 24-25, the regulated tariff, it's 138 million, and for the following year, 147 and 157. And then, Chair, this is the area that was hard by COVID. Before COVID, the figure was 130 million. Now, with the impact of COVID, the figure dropped to 47 million immediately after COVID. Now, we've been gradually recovering from the impact of COVID. And now when you can see for 24-25, at least the figure is slightly above what we had before COVID. Now, total revenue for 24-25 is 681 million. And as you can see, after that, the following year, it's dropping to 596. The reason that it's dropping is because of the figure on top of government grant, the OPEX of 322 for the current year. Next year, it drops to 201, with the expectation that we will have to improve our commercial revenue. And in terms of the expenditure, we have got compensation for employees of 325 million, and admin and OPEX of 229, both 554. Now, Chair, when you look at the government grant OPEX, and then you can see that it does not cover our employee cost, as well as or combination of the employee cost and administrative costs. Then it means that we need to cover this shortfall from the commercial revenue. And then, as I've indicated, the commercial revenue is about 26%. And the next slide, Chair, this is the balance sheet. And I think I'll not talk much here. These are the equipment that we use. And the next slide, Chair, it provides areas of our cash flow over the MTF period. And the next slide, it provides the areas where we need to invest in our CAPEX. The big area that we need to invest in is the radar equipment. And as I've indicated, that our equipment is aging, and then these radars are very expensive. One radar, it's about 45 million. And we also have computer equipment. We've got a higher performance computing system that we are currently busy finalizing the procurement thereof. And then hence there's this computer equipment. And then the other equipment are meteorological equipment that we need to procure, as well as the air quality equipment that are very important to cover our air pollution. And the next slide is the thank you, and thanks for this opportunity, Chair.
Thank you very much, CFO. Members, I just need your quick guidance. Would you prefer that we allow all the entities to present and then ask the questions, or you want us to ask a presentation as they finish, we ask the questions? Can you give me guidance on that? Because I believe that you are noting. Can I see a hand? Mama Mutkono?
Thank you, Chair. Pardon me, I have the flu. But I would like to suggest that we allow all the entities to present and we ask questions for all of them at the end of their presentations.
Okay then. Okay, noted, Mamumtun. I do not see any hand or contrary view. Can we get the second presenter, Kilega? I do not see the agenda.
It's SANParks, Chairperson. The next
okay.
entity is SANParks.
Okay, the chairperson of SANParks, I'm going to hand over to you. Thereafter, I will give over to the CEO of SANParks. The chair, can you take over?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. Let me greet you and at the same time congratulate you on your appointment as members of the committee, and also greet the minister and the deputy minister who are in attendance. In presenting our APP chairperson, I just want to make a couple of points, and the CEO will pick up on the detail. When we got the program, Chairperson, we had budgeted to speak for 10 minutes. So I would, if we are too brief, you will guide us. But we thought we will do what we need to do within 10 minutes. Just to say that SANParks, our APP, as a primary conservation agency in the country, we continue through the APP to implement our mandate. And this year, what we've also done is to ensure that there's alignment between our targets and our work with the white paper that was approved last year. How we intend to do this, we're looking at 4 outcome goals. And under those 4 outcome goals, we have set targets, which the CEO chairperson will go through that. And in a little bit more detail, what are the exact targets, for example, on the expansion of the land and under conservation, we're looking at the 10,000 additional hectares of land and so on and so on. Thirdly, we would like to also grow our revenue as an entity. At the core of that is tourism, which contributes about 74% of our own revenue. And also, you would see when the CFO just takes us through the numbers, we're looking at a budget of 3.8 billion for the year in question. And that, because tourism is at the core of our revenues growth strategy, the improvement of visitor experience when they visit our parks, growing our numbers both domestically and international arrivals, improving our infrastructure as people experience our parks are some of the things that are in our program. And lastly, in our APP chairperson, is just to put systems in place that we don't only account for the money that we are entrusted with, but we make sure that there are proper governance systems, and we do so through investing in our people, and we've put some targets as well with regard to looking after the people that work for the entity. Without further ado, Chairperson, then I would ask the CEO to start from, because I'm assuming that the presentation was circulated, and the time that we have, that the CEO starts from slide 13. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mamiako. The CEO.
Good evening, Honorable Chair. Good evening, Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, as well as the honorable members of the committee, the Chairperson of SANParks and the Chairpersons of the other entities in the room, as well as the CEOs of the entities and other colleagues. I will go straight into it. As the Chairperson has indicated, And I will start with outcome goal number 1, which is sustainable biodiversity and cultural heritage across land and sea that delivers benefits for the people of SA and the world, now and in the future. Under this outcome goal, we measure a number of sub-outcomes, starting with sub-outcome 1, which is the protected areas expansion, in line, obviously, with the National Protected Areas Expansion Strategy. SANParks has got its own land inclusion plan. And for this financial year, we intend to expand by another 10,000 hectares. We also measure under this outcome goal, in terms of sub-outcome goal 2, degraded ecosystems that are rehabilitated. Under this sub-outcome, we measure the clearing of invasive plant species, which has 2 annual targets. The one, which is 8,040 hectares, speaks to the clearing, the initial clearing of invasive plant species in our parks. And the other outcome speaks of clearing, a follow-up clearing of invasive plant species. We also target the number of wetlands under rehabilitation. And for this financial year, our target is 20 wetlands. Still on the same outcome goal 1, a further sub-outcome that we measure is climate change vulnerability. And in there, we aim to reduce climate change vulnerability and improve our resilience to climate change. To that regard, we ensure that we incorporate climate change vulnerabilities and adaptation priorities in our park management plans. And our target for this year is to ensure such inclusion into 2 park management plans. We also have a mandate around the management of cultural heritage. And for the APP, we measure the extent to which we have improved our management of cultural heritage through the number of projects that we implement physically. We have 4 projects as a target for the year. Then the issue of sustainable populations of species of special concern, the monitoring, therefore, the maintenance of the population, therefore, is a very critical element of our work. And for the APP, we zone specifically into rhino populations. Our target is to ensure that we retain a total population of more than 2,600 rhinos across national parks. And just to indicate that in addition to Kruger, we have 6 other national parks that are rhino strongholds. Next slide. Outcome goal 2 speaks to improve diverse and responsible tourism. As the chair indicated, this is the output that drives the revenues or the revenue generation within SANParks. Sub-outcome 6 under this outcome goal is that of improved tourism performance, where we measure customer service index rating. And year after year, we aim to improve the rating. For this financial year, our target is 0.5% improvement. We also measure and monitor the number of visitors to our parks year on year, and we aim at a 5% increase. The percentage increase in accommodation occupancy, also a very critical metric. Our target is 0.6 for this financial year. We also, through our public-private partnership program, aim to diversify our products and introduce new products into our parks every single year. Our target for this financial year is 8 of these products being implemented, and these are specifically the triple Ps. We have, in addition, an obligation to measure the quality or to monitor the quality of the accommodation that we provide to tourists, and to this end, we will undertake 10 grading assessments with the Tourism Grading Council of South Africa. Outcome Goal 3 speaks to sustainable socio-economic development program that ensures delivery of benefits to the land claimants, historically disadvantaged communities, and the people of South Africa in broad terms. Under this outcome goal, we have a sub-outcome that speaks to the transformation of wildlife economy through increasing participation of previously disadvantaged individuals. To this end, we have a program of donating and loaning game to communities and individual emerging game farmers around the country. We aim in this year to deliver 750 heads of game. We also run a strong EPWP program, and we aim to create 4,620 full-time equivalent employment through our EPWP. And in addition, we break it down to measure the number of jobs we create for youth, women, and people with disabilities. Youth would be 55% of that targeted number that I mentioned earlier. Women, the intention is to ensure that 60% of our EPWP jobs go to women and 2% of the jobs go to people with disabilities. Sub-outcome 8 under the same outcome goal 3 speaks to improved participation of previously disadvantaged individuals in our business as SANParks. This is very specific to procurement opportunities that we award as part of our preferential procurement program. And we are targeting 80% of our procurement opportunities going directly to PDIs, ideally from neighboring communities where permissible. The next outcome, sub-outcome 9, speaks to access to education and skills development opportunities. We train quite a number of people from targeted groups, drawn from the communities around our parks. Our plan for this year is to train 120 individuals from these targeted groups. We also run a program whereby we provide free access to schools, most of them, if not all, being schools operating in disadvantaged environments, and we provide them with free access. For educational purposes, we aim to provide such opportunity to 750 schools in this financial year. The last sub-outcome in this outcome goal 3 speaks to the number of social legacy projects we will implement. We have a fund in SANParks, which is derived from tourism fees that we retain to utilize for these social legacy projects. They're effectively social responsibility investment projects. We aim to implement 6 in the areas around where our parks exist. I'll move on to the last outcome goal, which speaks to sustainable and transformed organization through revenue, people, systems, and business processes. Under this sub-outcome, we measure a number of very diverse sub-outcomes, but that speak to the critical elements that keep the organization sustainable and well-governed. Starting with sub-outcome 11, it's financial sustainability, which is very critical for us. The chairperson mentioned that we raise a significant amount of our revenue through our tourism activities, but in addition to the tourism activities, we also have a need to raise revenue through resource mobilization. And to this extent, we are targeting to raise through our resource mobilization activities 120 million, some of it which is in kind. And then in terms of the percentage increase of revenue raised through our tourism performance, we're aiming at a 10% year-on-year increase. We also focus on ensuring that we have a transformed and capable human capital. And under this sub-outcome, we measure the percentage of women in management positions. Our target stands at 42%. People with disabilities as a percentage of total employees, our target stands at 1.3, as well as the amount of investment we make in the development of our human capital. We are targeting to spend 1.5% of payroll on skills development programs in this year. Under sub-outcome 13, which deals with sound corporate governance, an unqualified audit opinion is our target for this financial year. And the next one speaks to effective stakeholder and partnership management. We run an annual 1-week event where we allow South Africans free access to our parks. And the target for the number of people who will enter through our parks during that week for this financial year stands at 80,000. I will then, through you, Honorable Chair, request that the CFO take you through the SANParks budget for this financial year. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. May I proceed? Okay, thank you. Good evening, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members.
There's an echo. Sorry, CFO. There's an echo that is happening. I'm not sure whether you have 2 devices on or there's someone who has logged on in this meeting as well next to you, but there is an echo that is happening. I'm not sure whether it's my device or can you speak again?
I only have one device, Chair, and I'm sitting in a very quiet space. How am I sounding now?
Yeah, there is. No, it's fine. You can continue, ma'am.
Oh, I'm not sure what's going on. All right. Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good evening, all protocol observed. Chairperson, and I see another member, they are hearing an echo.
Yes, someone is repeating, something is repeating what you are saying.
Oh my goodness.
Your device. Maybe it's your device. Just continue. We'll just check whether we can hear you clearly. Continue, ma'am.
Okay,
Sorry for
you'll
that.
just stop me at any time. I'm tempted to disconnect and reconnect, but I'm also mindful of time if I do that.
Okay. Just continue. We'll then tell
All
you if
right.
you are
Yeah,
listening.
I'll just present this one slide quickly. This is a summary of our budget for the financial year 2024-2025, and this budget supports our strategic objective so that we are able to deliver our mandate and all those targets that have been presented by our CEO. We have a total revenue budget of 3.773 billion. This is a
Sorry, ma'am. Members, are you comfortable with this sound? Can we allow ma'am to log off and then log in again? Are you comfortable, members, with this sound?
No, Chair, it's really terrible. It doesn't sound. I think she must
No,
log
it's
off.
terrible. Yes.
We must take another presentation until maybe she sorted out challenges with connecting.
Okay. Are you comfortable, members?
No, not at all, Chairperson. We can't hear properly with the echo that is repeating after she's speaking. I also
Okay, let's
suggest that
allow her
maybe
to
we
log
log
off and
off.
log in again. Let's give it just a few
Please.
minutes. We don't have to go to another presentation. Let's just give a few minutes.
Then she finishes the presentation.
Yes, and allow her to finish her presentation.
Okay.
Okay. Otherwise, the CEO will have to take over if the problem persists.
I'm back, Chair.
You are loud, you are clear, you can continue, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm happy. All right. I was still reflecting on the total revenue budget. That is 3.773 billion rand, which is 6% increase from the previous year's allocation. And our revenue budget is structured in two parts. We have a self-generated revenue, which constitutes 75% of the entire revenue budget. This was also highlighted by the chairperson of the board earlier on. And the other part of the budget, which is grants and donations, constitutes 25% of our total revenue. And from the self-generated revenue, as we can see, we are projecting an increase of 11%. And this is mainly attributable to the recovery of the tourism industry. And we've also seen the increase in numbers that we are targeting from the APP targets that the CEO presented earlier on. And on the grant revenue, unfortunately, we couldn't project the increase due to the budget cuts. Members will remember that the DG presented the overview of the budget cuts and on Tuesday to the committee, and this also affected us. And as such, we had to reduce our grant revenue by 7%, and this affected mainly infrastructure and EPWP grants. And in terms of the expenditure, the total expenditure is the same as budget, is the same as the revenue budget, because we're preparing a balanced budget. And the main components of the expenditure are human resource and operating costs, which make up 47% and 32% respectively. Our human resource constitute the biggest component, Chair and members, because of the size of our organization and the fact that our operations are employee intensive. Our maintenance budget has been increased by 10% to enable us to reduce the infrastructure maintenance backlog. And the budget for a special project also, as we can see on the screen, special project and infrastructure has increased substantially by 56%. These include new infrastructure projects, and over and above the traditional infrastructure, we are also investing in technology to enhance our operational and cost efficiencies so that we can improve visitor experiences, especially at the gate, but also from the admin side as well. This requires a lot of money right now, but we are going to realize the benefits, financially and non-financial benefits over time. I will stop here, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, CFO. Thank you, SANParks. We are now going to move to iSimangaliso Wetland Park Authority. I am going to give over to the board chairperson, Inkosi Tembe. Inkosi Tembe, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairperson. My greetings to Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, honorable members, honorable Minister, Deputy Ministers, board chairpersons who are present, Director General and CEOs of the organizations, and everyone who's in attendance. Thank you very much, Chairperson, for the opportunity for us to present as iSimangaliso Wetland Park Authority. I will just going to give a snapshot, and then I'll give it to the CEO of the organization to take you through to the presentation. We are about to present the 2024-2025 annual performance plan for iSimangaliso Wetland Park Authority. We are happy to announce that the entity achieved a clean audit in the 2023-2024 financial year and achieved 100% on organizational performance. The entity had started to implement the commercialization strategy and the first phase of commercialization. The key highlights of the small capital projects commercialization is that 32% has been allocated to the previously disadvantaged group, and they were initially 3% before the rollout of the commercialization. We have appointed the transitional advisor for the implementation of large capital project under commercialization. On the St. Lucia estuary update, we are on par in implementing the recommendation of the panel of expert recommendation report. We have achieved a positive buy-in from the farmers and the large community that are residing in the outskirts of iSimangaliso. The latest meeting of the 17th of May 2024 was positive, with community members welcoming the key milestone which have been achieved in implementing the action plan. During the meeting, an update on the progress of the basic assessment report was provided to the community, as well as the status of the special studies in accordance with the institutional Gantt chart to the Gantt chart. The statutory 30 days public participant process is now complete, and the entity is busy collecting comments for submission of the final basic assessment report to the department on the 15th July 2024. The purpose of this basic assessment report is to request the environmental authorization for dredging in the Msunduzi-Umfolozi River canal to address the issue of farmers that are inundated with water. We would like to appreciate and thank the department for providing the funding support to implement this recommendation of the panel of experts recommendation report. The 2024-25 annual performance plan was submitted to the department as per the public entities compliance as scheduled. I will then give it to our CEO of the organization, Chairperson, to give more comprehensive presentation in regards of this snapshot that I just have shared with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. CEO, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, honorable Minister, the two deputy ministers, chairpersons of the entities, our Director General, CEs in attendance, colleagues, good evening to you. Chairperson, we will also be very brief, but allow me to take the Portfolio Committee through some background information because it's important given the fact that this is the first Portfolio Committee in the 7th administration. ISPA, as indicated in the slide, was inscribed in 1999 in accordance with the World Heritage Convention Act as a World Heritage Site. It is a park which is made up of 16 parcels of land, starting from the north, which is Kosi Bay, up to the south in Mapelane, and in the north it's in Nkosi Tembe, and in the south is in Nkosi Sokulu. The size of the park is over 1.3 million, and it was inscribed for three main reasons, which we must always make sure that we don't lose those, because they are the main reasons why we were established as a World Heritage Site. It is the ecological and biological processes, the superlative natural phenomena, as well as the biological diversity. I must also bring to your attention, Chairperson and honorable members, that we are in a process of extending the park to the Mozambican side, which is going to have a significant contribution in terms of the 30 by 30, because that is going to bring an additional 153,992 hectares into the park once this is finalized. So that is currently underway, and we are working on that as we speak. Next slide. It is also imperative, Chairperson, that I bring to your attention, some of you who were in the Portfolio Committee would recall that we did indicate that iSimangaliso, unlike other entities, is a national entity operating in the provincial entity. However, in as much as we have been assigned the management authority responsibility as an entity, we do not, however, perform the conservation function ourselves. It is performed by the provincial entity called SANBI KZN Wildlife, and this is in accordance with the World Heritage Convention Act regulations, because there are two key regulations that we need to take to note. First one, which says that the iSimangaliso will be responsible for commercial activities, but the second one, which says that the conservation and law enforcement in the park will be performed by SANBI KZN Wildlife. My understanding, and which I think should also be an understanding which needs to be improved, is that this was an interim measure, but it has been here for a very long time, and it has really compromised the operations of iSimangaliso, both in the context of being able to generate own revenue, because in as much as the commercial operations was assigned to iSimangaliso, but the operation of the commercial facilities within iSimangaliso, in terms of that arrangement, was or is operated by Ezemvelo KZN Wildlife for the benefit of Ezemvelo KZN Wildlife, meaning that there is no income that comes to iSimangaliso as a result of that. I am painting this picture so that we can understand the institutional arrangement that is at play, purely because it is one key issue that we need to address going forward. And we have shared this situation with our minister yesterday, because it does really compromise our operation in general. As we know, as I've indicated, it is that World Heritage Convention Act and the National Environmental Management Act and all the other related pieces of legislation. We operate in the 2 district municipalities, Umkhanyakude District Municipality as well as King Cetshwayo, but the bulk of the park is in Umkhanyakude District, and this is an area where there is huge number of unemployment, as you can see on that slide. So if iSimangaliso were to continue to exist in perpetuity and to make sure that all the 3 outstanding values that I mentioned earlier on are maintained in perpetuity, iSimangaliso would have to respond to these socio-economic issues and to these issues that we are presenting here. If you look on this slide, for instance, you can see that unemployment rate is very high under youth, 51.2%, and overall in terms of other members of the society is 42.8%. So this is the situation that we're dealing with, and the biggest question that we as iSimangaliso must be asking ourselves is, what is the contribution that we are going to make this situation better? What is the contribution of iSimangaliso in alleviating poverty? Now, the communities that I'm talking about are in these 2 districts, and they are in these local municipalities. And we have Amakosi, who most of the land that we're talking about are the owners in the name of, in the context of Ingonyama Trust Act, which means that Ingonyama Trust as an entity is holding land on behalf of Amakosi. They are the custodian of land, so the real owners of the land are Amakosi. So they are a critical stakeholder in as far as the park is concerned. Obviously, we do have other stakeholders in the form of land claimants, in the form of fishing cooperatives, in the form of the ratepayers, the commercial farmers, the subsistence farmers, traditional healers, and many others. Those are the people that are the stakeholders. This round, we now include our Mozambican counterpart because of the extension that I talked about earlier on. We just wanted to show you that to respond to that slide, this is what we've done. We've created both the SMME as well as employment, not only employment, SMME opportunities 243, and the number of job opportunities 575, and so on and so on. And this is the budget that we've allocated, and using the programs that you can see on your screen to make sure that those projects are there. You will appreciate that if you look at working for water programs, for instance, we've got 99 SMMEs there. Each of those SMMEs employs from their neighboring communities at least 12. So this amounts to quite more than 1,000 employment opportunities that are created, as well as these 99 SMMEs. So it does then relate to the situation that I presented earlier on of Umkhanyakude district, and the continued support in this situation further guarantees the existence of the park, because for as long as we have alien invasives in the park, we'll forever be having these SMMEs, obviously budget permitting. Next slide. I think we're just indicating here the contribution that will be making in the 2024-25 approved allocation. Obviously, you can see that some of it is reduced because of the budget constraints that we are facing as the South African government. Next slide. Our approach to developing the annual performance plan was largely informed by the board strategic session, which was held on the 5th to the 8th of September. We have incorporated the guidance that we got from the department, wherein we looked at making sure that we have at least 5 output indicators, and those indicators we had to ensure that they are outcome-based so that they can be translated into tangible and physical activities. We have developed a stakeholder engagement and management strategy, and we've made sure that we implement that strategy just to make sure that we bring the park back to the senses and interest of the communities, because as you probably know, this park is one of the parks where there was serious animosity between the park and the communities, especially those who are surrounding the park. But this has drastically changed because of the implementation of this strategy. We've also made sure that we give special focus to issues of communities to ensure proper implementation thereof. We've created opportunities from the park to create relevance of the park, especially to those communities living there. Committed staff with a minimum number of interactions to ensure that we give these communities an ear if there are issues that they're complaining about, i.e. problem animals that are escaping the park and damaging their crops and all that. We just wanted to make sure that all those issues are taken care of, and we are there in the communities to listen to those issues, but also to provide solutions on how best we can deal with those issues. Next slide. The strategic focus of this APP, which we will be talking to now, is, as you know, as I've indicated, it is a 3-pronged 5-year strategy. And given the background that now we are in a process now of taking over the commercial facilities, we are now looking into changing the business model where we are more business oriented, and we're incorporating the climate change mitigation and adaptation because it does affect us a great deal in the KZN in particular. The APP is also addressing the current institutional arrangement between ourselves and SANBI, especially at the moment in the commercial operations, but we're also looking at the conservation management takeover going forward. Address the issues of climate change through green energy initiatives, biofinance, wastewater management, as well as solar energy. And we're focusing more on ecotourism, and our strategy is to make sure that we have aggressive marketing of the park and incorporating the results of the recently concluded market research survey. And in doing this, we are making sure that our approach and our model in terms of changing the situation, we implement the commercialization, and that is where we are not going to run the facilities ourselves, but the facilities are going to be run by private operators, people who are captains of the industry and who know how to run those businesses. But one of the other reasons why we are choosing commercialization, we also looked at the issue of the fact that government does not have money, and the current facilities are dilapidated, and if we were to renovate and refurbish these facilities, it would cost a lot of money and delay the process of starting to realize benefits from it. And therefore, our approach is to get those who have an interest in investing in iSimangaliso to refurbish and renovate those facilities, obviously through a PPP process. The APP is also aiming to develop a model of community-owned entrepreneur businesses to service the commercialization of these tourism products, so that we can use this park as a catalyst to contribute to social ills in the improvement of the situation, the social ills that we see in Umkhanyakude. One of the examples is that we anticipate that as part of improving this situation, we may be having, or we will be having, the laundromats, who are not going to be run by the private investors, but by the entrepreneurs from the community, who will then in turn employ other members of the community. And by so doing, we're creating the relevance of the park to the community, because they will now be benefiting directly, as opposed to these 10, 15-year participation in the process. The APP also aims to implement management plan and adaptive management strategy for the St. Lucia estuary, which was under dire stress because of the human interference. And we also aim to maintain the unqualified audit opinion. You might have heard the chairperson indicating that we've been obtaining 100% performance for the past 3 years, and we have obtained a clean audit outcome to confirm a good governance, but that can also be translated, as you have seen in the previous slides, to tangible service delivery. Strategic outcomes leading to our APP is compliance with the legislation, mitigation of the biodiversity threats, and park World Heritage site maintained. We want to continue making sure that we are a renowned World Heritage park, improved socioeconomic benefits and conditions of communities around the park, and an adequately skilled and capacitated workforce, which is transformed and representative of South Africa race and gender demographics. If ICT issues, we want to make sure that we adopt issues of digitization as part of our key issues, and financial sustainability and contribution to transformation of the sector is our focus. We've got 26 output indicators, as I indicated, and we've got 6 programs, and corporate biodiversity, tourism and marketing, socio-economic, infrastructure, as well as internal operations and strategic projects. Our APP, unqualified audit opinion, is what we are anticipating, but of course, we're using the unqualified audit opinion because this is what AG calls it, but with no findings, which is normally known as a clean audit in our case. Trade data, creditor payment, we make sure that we pay our creditors within 30 days, just to make sure that the SMMEs that we're talking about do not submit invoice and are paid 100 days after. So they need to be paid within the 30 days, and we make sure that that happens. Trade data collection, everyone who's owing us, we make sure that we create that relationship for them to be able to pay us within at least 60 days. Program 1, corporate supports continued. We're training interventions implemented in line with the workplace skills plan, SETA. Again, that is 100% interventions implemented in line with the workplace skills plan submitted to SETA. Digitized business systems, as we talked about, it's 4 that we are planning to achieve in this financial year. We also want to have to look into issues of anti-poaching and ranger security services strategy developed. We also want to make sure that we monitor the St. Lucia estuary, because unfortunately it will have to be managed in terms of the adaptive management system, because it can no longer function naturally as it used to be. The St. Lucia Estuary Management Plan will be a tool that will be used to do that. And I'm happy to say that we have finalized this plan, and it has been submitted for the approval by our minister. Development of zone of influence, the buffer zones, and make sure that we manage the unauthorized land encroachment strategy. Strategic branding and marketing efforts to market the park as a destination of choice is what we also intend to do. Paying visitors, 215,000. And as indicated, that our revenue generation is still very much limited because of the business model that is there, which we are hard at work to change. It's 27.5. Social media posts is 500, and park estate maintenance plan needs to be maintained to make sure that our infrastructure is in good state. Stakeholder perception survey, we want to put a dipstick, especially because of the history that we have with our communities. Stakeholder engagement report produced to demonstrate that we do meet with our stakeholders and create about 550 full-time equivalent jobs. Again, this is based on the budget availability, the budget cuts, based on the budget cuts that we have. Environmental awareness activities conducted is 4 that we have planned. Kilometers of roads constructed, 30, and park boundary fence is again an area that we're going to maintain, obviously using those SMMEs for each for a certain number of kilometers, SMMEs and job creation, just to make sure that this works for us in terms of creating that relevance of the park, and also infrastructure inside the park as well. Tourism products advertised, 5. Community entrepreneur-owned business linked to the park operations, as we talked about the example of the laundromat. The Groensebenza is 200, and this is one program that has created a lot of mileage for us, creating employment opportunities for young people from the communities surrounding the park. These are graduates who are unemployed and who have been unemployed for more than 5 to 10 years. And it has created a lot of, and we appeal that when the appropriation bill is passed, at least this is prioritized so that we can continue implementing this, because it does create a lot of a sense of ownership and participation of our communities, especially the youth in our park. Environmental monitors is 130. That is people who are assisting us in the park. Again, it's youth. And we're looking at financial sustainability. We've looked at the risks. So this is the risk metric. We developed the risk matrix, and one of the key issues is to look at the financial sustainability to improve our financial situation, and also to maintain and sustain the outstanding universal values and improve the socioeconomic conditions of the communities living in and adjacent to our park. Business model implemented is what we're looking at. Again, the encroachment is a big risk that we are looking at, as well as the issue of monitoring our estuary to ensure that it continues to operate, it doesn't degrade into a swamp. Financial sustainability, as I indicated earlier on, we are 94% grant dependent, a highly undesirable situation which we're wanting to change using commercialization, because the situation right now is that park revenue is sitting at 2% and other income is 4%. Revenue enhancement measures is gate-taking audits and debt collection, modernization of booking, game sales, wildcard points, and obviously the commercialization and resource mobilization is what we are looking at as part of our financial sustainability plan in the 2023-24 financial year. Next slide. This is our budget. In the interest of time, CFO, you will add where you need to add. But what we're indicating here is that in the 2023-2024, you can see our budget, how it looked like. And in the 2024-2025, you can see that there has been a significant cut, especially in the WP programs and CAPEX. So we have a situation where we are now coerced into a position where we must now look at converting our CAPEX into OPEX so that we are able to meet some of the financial obligations that we have. But the current situation, as you can see across the MTF, is that we've got a deficit of about 152,500,000, and the figures, as you can see, going to 25-26 is 102,593,500. It gets better, but this is the situation. So It is a very compromised situation, and the entity is under serious stress because of that situation. If you look at our budget, you will realize that if you look at consultants, contractors, for instance, we're sitting at about 35 million. It tells you that something is wrong. This entity is relying too much on consultants. The reason why it is like this is because of the model that I presented earlier on. When iSimangaliso was established, it was established as a project that will grow into a program. Now, we don't have enough capacity in terms of personnel. So if you're talking about technical, for instance, we don't have that personnel. Therefore, if you talk issues of fence, you must appoint a service provider. If you're talking about fire, disaster management, you must appoint a service provider. If you talk about internal auditors, you must appoint a service provider. So that is the situation. And this is the situation which I think is a situation that needs to be looked into, and how best we deal with that going forward, because the situation is government does not have money to create more employment in terms of to fill the positions that are supposed to be filled, and we're left in this situation. But that is what it is, and that's how our budget gets compromised. Next slide. That concludes our presentation, Chairperson. I don't know if the CFO wants to add anything, but I was trying to expedite the presentation because we had to cover the background as well. Thank you very much, Chairperson, honorable members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vukosin. Ms. Tambo, is there anything that you want to add, or the CEO has covered everything?
Good evening, Chairperson. The CEO has covered. It means I've done a good job. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Ndambo. Let's move to the last presentation, honorable members. That will be SANBI, South African National Biodiversity Institute. I'm going to give over to the chairperson, the deputy chairperson of the board, Mrs. Ferguson. Over to you, ma'am.
Chairperson, my apology, the deputy chairperson could not be with us today. This is the chairperson of the board.
Oh, okay. Sorry, sir.
Yes.
Now, I'll give over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, honorable chairperson and honorable members of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee. Greetings to the minister and deputy minister. Congratulations, honorable members and the ministers, for the appointments. I'm the board chairperson, and with me I have got the CEO and the executive of the SANBI in the name of the COO, the Chief Financial Officer, and the Head of Biodiversity Science and Policy Advice. The South African National Biodiversity Institute is one of the national public entities within the Department of Forestry, Fisheries, and the Environment, which is categorized as Schedule 3A of the National Public Entity under the Public Management Act. SANBI is established through a National Environment Management Biodiversity Act number 10 of 2004, which we abbreviate as NEMBA, articulating its form and functions. The long-term mission of the Institute is to provide leadership in biodiversity research, policy advice, conservation, and human capital development, and to promote the appreciation, sustainable use, and the equitable sharing of the benefits of South Africa's biodiversity. To ensure a coordinated and cost-effective approach to implementing the Institute's legal mandate, the SANBI board, working with management, has approved several key strategies and policies with interrelated strategic outcomes, which are being implemented through a phased-in approach based on available resources. This includes, among others, the SANBI Research Strategy, the SANBI Financial Sustainability Strategy, the SANBI Digital Transformation Strategy, the National Zoological Gardens Repositioning Strategy, the Biodiversity Human Capital Development Strategy, National Botanical Gardens Expansion Strategy, and the Infrastructure Maintenance and Development Program, which is aimed at improving the state of facilities of the Institute for enhanced world-class customer product offering. The SANBI board will continue to provide its fiduciary and oversight responsibilities on all governance, strategic planning, finance, policy, and performance matters. We will do that in pursuit of SANBI's vision and mission, which will always be aligned with the delivery of its mandate. SANBI's footprint spans all the unique biomes of our beautiful country. SANBI remains at the center of our country's effort to protect, conserve, and ensure the sustainable use of our unique biological assets. Our scientific programs, biodiversity information or knowledge, are critical in ensuring evidence-based decision-making across the sectors. Our botanical and zoological gardens remains as windows to biodiversity and play multiple roles in education, tourism, recreation, research, and conservation. This testimony can be seen from yet another international recognition of the Kirstenbosch National Botanical Garden as a world-class tourist attraction for nature's enthusiasts that maintaining its status. The Walter Sisulu National Botanical Garden in Gauteng is amongst the most notable and popular national tourist attractions in the area, and the same applies to all national gardens across the provinces. Honorable Chairperson, most recently through the International Convention on Biological Diversity, SANBI has been selected to host the Sub-Regional Technical and Scientific Cooperation Center for the implementation of the Global Biodiversity Framework. The cumulative expected long-term impact of the combined outcome of these different SANBI strategies and programs aims to build an efficient, adequate, and capacitated, responsive, and financial sustainable institution with modernized systems that position SANBI to execute its legal conservation mandate and offer an enhanced value for the South African society. We will continue to work with a network of strategic partners and stakeholders in government through its spheres, academic institutions, of which we have signed several MOUs to enhance our human capital development, businesses, NGOs, civil society, local communities with which we engage, international governments and organizations that also support our funding through collaborations, and many other funding institutions. We will also continue to play our part internationally as part of our contribution to help our country fulfill its international obligations in fighting against the effects of climate change, halting biodiversity loss, and combating diversification and land degradation. Honorable Chair and members of the committee, Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, I will allow the CEO of SANBI and his executive to take the committee through the details of the presentations, which will outline the key priorities and commitments for the 2024-2025 financial year. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Mutsetsi, can you take over? We cannot hear him. Or is it me? Can you hear him, colleagues?
No, there's nobody who's speaking, Chairperson.
Oh, okay.
Is he muted?
We don't hear anyone.
Maybe he's muted because I saw the presentation, it was moving. Can someone from SANBI inform him that we are not hearing anything? CEO?
Yeah, we are calling him.
Oh, okay.
Honorable Chair. The CEO is having a problem unmuting. I don't know
Okay.
whether there's any technical assistance that could perhaps unmute him.
Hilaka, is that possible?
Yes, Chair, I did unmute him.
Oh, thank you very much. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate. I need to go back to the slide the slide before. I'm not going to go through the whole presentation. The background slides, starting from slide number 1 to slide number 36, are available to members, honorable members, for reference. Of course, for APP, I would like to start from slide number 37. It's refusing even to move. There we are on slide number 37. Thank you, and thank you very much. I really appreciate the SANBI's mandate, as the chair had indicated earlier on. We are at the center of evidence-based decision-making. Our functions are spelled out through the Act number, the National Environment Management Biodiversity Act. The summary of what SANBI's functions are also provided within the Act, but summarized in this graphic that I'm putting here in front of you, honorable members and honorable chair and minister and deputy ministers, is that we generate knowledge. That's specifically what we do. We're at the center of evidence-based decision-making, as I indicated. In that form, we do and perform functions that are informed or that are informed by collections, the taxonomy and the classification. We generate maps that are used to inform planning and decision-making on all matters that may have direct or indirect implications on biodiversity. In that regard, we monitor the state of biodiversity in the country. We do assessments, we do trends analysis, we perform experiments that inform how things need to be responded to in halting biodiversity loss. We generate models that are used for that purpose. All that information is packaged in various forms, some as guidelines, some as planning tools that are provided, but in a manner that it can be used for policy and decision-making, and also in informing actions that are going to ensure that this country achieves and moves to a healthier environment than what it is at the moment. Of course, there are inherent benefits in terms of human well-being, job creation, and improved service delivery. There are specific tools that are very, very important to highlight, or we regard them as pillars. Of course, human capital development is very, very important, not only for internal staff members, but also for the benefit of the whole sector, the environment sector, the biodiversity sector. And therefore, you would see as I go through all the programs and also what we'll be delivering as part of the APP, this comes out very, very strongly. Another pillar that supports this work is that we've got a network of botanical and zoological gardens spanning across various provinces of our country. And they come through as windows to biodiversity. And those facilities also provide opportunities for research, for education, for interface from a social perspective, and also integration. We've got 4 programs that I will be referring to when I talk to the APP now. First program focuses on matters around botanical and zoological gardens, of course. In that, we take care of visitors that come in. All these facilities are there for conservation, for tourism, for recreation, for research, and all that. We've got a program that deals with biodiversity science and policy advice. That's where all these tools that I was referring to, the assessments and spatial representation of a number of things, the trends analysis, all of them are done within that particular space. including but not limited to what we call foundations or foundational biodiversity interventions. Got a program that deals with human capital development and transformation. In that case, I would indicate that upfront now that we have, for the past 2 years, been working with close to 1,000 graduates to ensure that this sector is well equipped into the future in one form or another. As I move on to the next slide, is that we framed strategies that are supposed to assist with that. And these strategies are supported by very clear plans with targets and deliverables. One is the strategy on research. We work with a number of institutions, not only academic institutions, the CSIRs, the NRFs, and the others. We also work with a network of partners on different aspects. We've got a strategy that is aimed at repositioning the zoo, the National Zoological Gardens. We've inherited this in 2018. Already 123 or 122 years old at that time. It's going to be 125 years this year. A lot needs to be done to take it and modernize it to respond appropriately to what is intended to do. We've got a strategy that deals with succulent anti-poaching. This is a big challenge that our country is faced with. I think it's in the same proportion, if not worse. I don't want to undermine the rhino poaching issue that we are confronted with from biodiversity and conservation perspective. This is but one of the emerging issues. In the last 2 to 3 years, we've been dealing with this, and SANBI also plays a critical role in that. There are other strategies that deal with matters of sustainability, commercialization, of course. The issue of digital transformation is very important. We deal with information that has to be accessed in platforms that should be accessible, but safe in that regard. In that way, digital transformation comes in very handy. So are other strategies for development and maintenance of the infrastructure that we have. Of course, human capital development I spoke about. So as we prepare, or at the time of the preparation of the APP, we took note of different areas that we have highlighted here. The green energy and water conservation becomes very, very important, not only from sustainability perspective, but also to ensure that our facilities are able to contribute to fight against the challenges that we're confronted with from climate change and related perspective. Financial sustainability, I did speak about. Of course, the issue of good governance comes very highly. We have a program that deals with strategic water source areas. It's a dry country, South Africa, of course. Every drop counts. And the 22 strategic water source areas that we have across the northern, eastern, and southern provinces, of course, western provinces or eastern provinces, and going down to Western Cape, Eastern Cape, Mpumalanga, and KZN and Limpopo are critical in that role. So the protection thereof would require base information or baseline information or foundational information and proper mapping. We do delineations, which is a fine-scale mapping, of course, of these strategic water sources, and we work with districts to ensure that we generate maps working with them, and they incorporate that as part of the spatial development frameworks at a district and at a local level and respond appropriately. So are other products that we develop that help in dealing with matters of land use, impact management, and planning for variety of purposes that they are used for. And we work with different sectors, and this information is important for a number of sectors: agriculture, water services, mining, and other areas as well. Issue of biological invasions is very, very important. In that regard, our planning also takes into consideration the work that we do from a risk analysis perspective. We have taken into consideration what has been happening over the years from the AGSA, of course, as we worked on planning, just to make sure that we respond appropriately through the APP. The first part of the APP focuses on the infrastructure that we need to look after as part of managing the network of national botanical and zoological gardens, because they have to deliver on their mandate appropriately. Therefore, they have to be looked after from an infrastructure perspective. So part or significant portion of our budget goes into that. The numbers are indicated there, 50 priority infrastructure. That's also an opportunity for job creation, especially at a local level. And the facilities that are developed, they also create further jobs in terms of their functionality and the services and products that they provide at a local level. Then the green energy and water conservation I spoke about, got annual plan to that effect. There are some gardens that are prone or that are set out and also prioritized to be off the grid. That in itself saves costs for us that we can direct to specific areas. But beyond that as well, as I indicated, a positive contribution to the challenges, climate change, and also water scarcity. The issue about visitors, of course, we receive 1.3 million in our gardens on an annual basis. So the target is indicated there. They come in for a variety of purposes, and we need to meet their expectations in terms of products and services. So quality matters, hence the budget that needs to go into that. The repositioning of the NZG or zoological gardens, I did indicate that we've got a strategy, we've got an action plan, we've got a specific targets that we'll be pursuing as indicated there. The conservation programs, not only for the National Zoological Garden, but for other gardens as well, they come in handy and quite critical for us to pursue because that is also contributing or will contribute not only to education and conservation, but also to sustainability. I will now move on to another program. The issue of science and assessments, very, very important in the sense that we need to generate knowledge through the animal and plant checklists from a taxonomic perspective. We value this work because the foundational information from a biodiversity perspective helps a lot when it comes to assessments and decision making. So at that foundational level, the work that we do in identification and classification is also indicated as part of the targets that we are pursuing. We pursue research papers that are specific to influence decision making and also provide information. And they are peer reviewed and published through accredited journals that are recognized by the Department of Higher Education. And in that regard, biodiversity knowledge then becomes more accessible to others. Critically important is the issue of risk analysis on alien and invasive species. We conduct, the target is that we'll do 45 of those. This work is very, very important. There are so many alien invasives that get to be introduced to the country in one form or another. Pathways are so many. In that regard, we come in to provide information that will indicate the impact of those alien invasives, the best way to respond to them, be it mechanical interventions that are required or biological or chemical interventions that are required. This work has socio-economic implications, not only from water availability perspective in terms of impact, water quality, also from agricultural perspective, and also socio-economic impact from a health perspective. Some of them may be poisonous, or some of them may create economic implications that would require a lot more to pay for in terms of responses. And we play that part upfront, and that informs all the work that we see on working for water in response to the removal or in interventions for the removal of those alien invasives are informed by this kind of work. Of course, the assessments, as I indicated, the reports, the state of biodiversity report gets to be generated every 5 to 7 years. That work is also prioritized on an annual basis because there are several steps that are followed into coming to that level of information. We also work on interventions that will support those that are involved in illegal trading in terms of responses, fight against wildlife crime. Of course, as I indicated, the succulent plant theft is quite high and poaching in that regard. We're sitting with more than 1 million of succulents that were provided to us from confiscations by the police. They need to be looked after. We learned the skills to propagate them. We have programs to take them back in terms of restoration. That whole process is also costly. Most of them are only found here in South Africa and nowhere else in the world. So there is a strategy to deal with that is multi-pronged. SANBI plays its part in that regard. There are policy products that we develop. They come in various forms, as I indicated, as guidelines, as fact sheets, as policy briefs that should inform decision-making. That's why I said we're at the center of evidence-based decision-making. We work with districts, municipalities, as I indicated, on strategic water sources. We prioritize 13 districts in different areas. And all those areas are selected on the basis of their contribution. I know there are more districts than 13, but on an annual basis, that's the number that we can deal with as we move along. When it comes to human capital development, we're doing a lot. I did refer to 1,000 young people that are trained through the program, 2-year program of graduates. Are employed as workers in different areas, assigned mentors. We've been looking at this, and there's a lot of attrition from our side as they get opportunities for full-time employment and other employment. But this intervention opens up those opportunities. Not only through bursaries do we intervene in the space, but also through what we call work integrated learning. There are those that will study for 2 years or 3 years, but they need a year to get a qualification and be exposed to work opportunities. So are bursaries that we also provide. The number of beneficiaries trained, of course, we have a very strong educational program that reaches out to, for the kids part, it reaches out to 140,000, but for others, tailor-made for specific purposes, biodiversity related, and beneficiaries trained in that. That's why we put the number 3,300 in that regard, and we work with different partners for that purpose. We also, in terms of financial sustainability and governance, yes.
CEO, I hope that you are almost done.
It's done, Honorable Chair. It's only
okay, I'm looking at the time.
Slide, one slide from governance and environmental sustainability. The issue of 105 million from resource mobilization perspective that we need to raise, and also our spending from a BBBEE perspective, and also the proportion of male-female staff at the high level or senior and top management level. If Honorable Chair would agree, I can ask there are only 2 slides that the CFO will talk to. If she can come in, Ms. Sibete Mapefo.
Yes, Mr. Mzenzi, okay. She can come in. She can come in.
Thank you.
Thank you, CE, and thank you, Chair. Good evening to yourselves, Chair, and the honorable members of the committee, the Minister and the Deputy Ministers, and all the Chairpersons and CEs and my colleagues. Good evening. Chairperson, we won't take long. We just wanted to highlight in terms of this quick dashboard what our finances look like. So, Chair, we've got a 70-30 split, and I think you would have heard the rest of my finance colleagues also indicating how their revenue is generated. In our case, we still have a reliance on the MTF at 30%, and at 70%, and 30% we generate. I think, Chair, when the board looked at this split, That's what actually drove them. You would have heard the chairperson indicating a number of strategies that they've come through. And one of the strategies that they've put through is the financial sustainability, which actually aims at reducing the 70% from the fiscus, that dependency from the fiscus, and moving it to rather own generation. Chairperson, the CEO went into detail indicating our key deliverables. One of the things that he mentioned is that we are a knowledge generation entity, and as such, we have high reliance on labor. I mean, we've got our scientists, we've got our green fingers who are responsible for keeping our gardens green and beautiful and making them world-class as they are. So as such, 54% of our budget goes into our labor cost so that we are able to deliver on our mandate. And then, Chair, you know, the issue of budget cuts, we are not immune to that. We have had a cut of 60 million for this current financial year. And unfortunately for us, that cut will hit us hard on the infrastructure. And the challenge with that is that we are aware that for us to actually decrease the 70% that I had highlighted, we really need infrastructure, Chair. And you would see that we were talking about new gardens that we've introduced, which are also aiming at driving the revenue. So we do need the infrastructure investment so that we unlock some of the strategies that we have. And especially, Chair, with the accreditation that our gardens have received. I mean, the chairperson mentioned a few that we've received accolades globally. So for us to maintain that, we will need to, in some cases, it's just pure maintenance, and in others where we just basically have to start from scratch in terms of building those gardens which are new. Chair, I think just what is of comfort is that as much as there's a 70-30 split, we thought it'd be wise to indicate to the committee that there are funds that we look into and try to tap into so that we can have short-term funding of our projects, and we've listed those in there, Chair. Some of them mainly from the department as well, and then we've got the Department of Science and Technology also coming through to assist. One other area, Chair, where we are unlocking the funding is on the global space. Chair, we've got the Green Climate Fund as well as the Adaptation Fund. And for those two funds, Chair, we are an accredited entity, which then allows us then to be the key driver and proposal of strategies on behalf of the country. And mainly when we look at those strategies and projects that we're going to facilitate, we really look at targeting the rural areas as well as the previously disadvantaged community, particularly to drive climate change initiatives there, Chair. Chair, we thought maybe just to highlight that the organization is busy with a proposal that to the tune of $80 million US. And then, Chair, with that, we aim to unlock quite a number of those projects that the CEO and the chairperson have highlighted. Next slide, Chair. Please, sorry, Chairperson. Chair, in terms of the monies, I'll be quite brief. There you can see what I had indicated about the 70-30 split. Now, 15% of our funding will go into infrastructure. Our operations from the government, it will be 54. And then in terms of the EPWP, which and biosecurity programs, we've got an allocation of 30%. Then when it comes to our own revenue generation, currently 61% comes through our gardens and related services. And then the funds currently in terms of what we have is 31%. We do have some of the people that just love the garden coming through and giving us part of their last wishes. and that's where the range request comes in at 4%. And then for us to stretch the rand of what we have, we look at different investments which are normally approved by Treasury, and that comes through at 2%. I think, Chairperson, let me thank you for the opportunity, Chair. That's all from my side. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Sadita. Honorable members, and that is the end of presentations. I am going to just ask us to have a 5-minute comfort break before taking hands for questions and any seeking clarity questions. Let's just have a 5-minute break, comfort break, then come back. I will note hands for the questions. Is that fine with you, colleagues and members?
Thank you, Chair.
Ms. Ronalda Nalumango, I see your hand is up. Is
No,
it hand?
that's for after the comfort break, Chair.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sure.
No, okay. 5-minute comfort break, colleagues, then we come back. Thank you, colleagues. Can you hear me?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Yes,
Okay.
Chair.
Okay, we are back. I am going to note hands, honorable members, and minister and deputy ministers. I'm also going to note hands. Okay. Number one, it is Honorable Nalumango, followed by number two is Honorable De Block. Okay. For now, I see these two hands. Okay. Followed by Dr. Managa. Yeah. Let's give these three hands for now. Then, yeah, we'll note others. Honorable Nalumango.
Thank you, Chair. Let me start by welcoming all the presentations that was made to the committee this evening. Let me greet yourself, Chair, and our Minister and two Deputy Ministers. I have made quite a few, I'm going to put quite a few questions and make some observations on what was presented, and I'll start from presentation one, which was on weather services, where it was said the erratic weather patterns, especially in the KZN and Western Cape. And I wanted to find out what provisions were made for these two provinces in regards to this erratic weather patterns, especially in the light of when we are talking of insufficient funding. On social cohesion and safe communities, in terms of disaster, I wanted to find out whether we are doing enough in terms of getting the message or the warning messages in time and timeously to our communities to ensure that they do take the proper safety measures. And we've seen, we're all in the Western Cape currently. We've seen, especially myself, because I travel a distance from Stellenbosch to Cape Town. We've come across some disasters that happened, especially in the Western Cape, and especially in your rural areas that are highly affected by some of these disasters. Do our messaging get to these rural areas in time? On slide 7, under weather services, the slide speaks to targets that have been reduced. And in many of the other presentations that was made, Chair, we speak of reduction, but we don't say from which total to which total was it reduced, so that it gives us as members of the committee an idea. Was it reduced from 10? Because now we are talking it's reduced to a total of 10. Or was it 20 before? Was it 30 before? Can we speak to numbers, especially when we are speaking on the issues of budget? We need numbers. On the old and aging infrastructure that needed to be replaced, I've not seen in the presentation there, especially when we are looking under the figures there, that we're speaking to anything on maintenance. Do we have a maintenance plan in place? Or are we going to replace the entire infrastructure? And I'm making an example of the radar equipment that the presenter was speaking to. Are we going to replace all the radar equipment? What was the lifespan of that kind of equipment? And have we had maintenance plans in place? If we could get that, the answers on that, Chair. On SANParks, I'm going to go on the outcome of goal 1, where it says 20 wetlands rehabilitation for the year. And they're just an indication, if an indication could be given in terms of the goal in the previous financial year on the wetlands. On the outcome goal 2, on the CSI rating, on the previous year, what was the target there? And under outcome goal 3, How many social legacy projects were identified? I know we've said that we've completed 6. Is it 6 out of 6? Or what was the number that was identified there previously? And iSimangaliso, and then the SANBI, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, SANBI KZN Wildlife. I think a concern was raised by the presenter, and that our executive should be interacting with the concerns that was raised in terms of the service level agreements on the contractual tourism agreements. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nalumango. Honorable De Blok.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for making another opportunity available for us to hear the outstanding presentations. I think it's been fascinating to listen to them. I'm very glad we did get to hear them. A couple of just general comments to all the entities. I think you all have a very critical role to play for the country, for this portfolio, and facing the twin crises of the climate crisis and biodiversity loss. So thank you for the important roles that you do fill. I think the fact that other portfolio committees had their entire agendas covered in 2 hours, where we are heading for 6, just shows everyone on the committee and the minister and deputy ministers how much work is going to be needed over the next 5 years to make sure that we achieve the objectives over this incredible breadth of work that we have to perform, and it is important and urgent work. On the South African Weather Service, I would like to just ask a question around how many point sources you have geographically for your data on meteorological monitoring and air quality, and then whether these are geographically representative and sufficient, or if expansion of those data collection sites is needed to really fulfill your mandate optimally. SANParks, I have a question, and I agree here with my colleague, Honorable Nalumango, that some benchmarking on some of the numbers would have been useful to understand the targets that have been set in the APP, but that be it as it may. I'd just like to know, on the 0.5% increase in the customer satisfaction index you mentioned, just what is the benchmark for 2023, 2024 that was achieved? Because 0.5% might be very significant if that benchmark is very high, and not very significant if that benchmark is fairly low. And then also on the rhino population, around 2,600 rhinos, I'd just like to know the split there between the black rhino and the white rhino, them being different species and having different habits. And again, what the benchmark was for 2023, 2024, so we can understand how healthy that population is in context. Thank you. And then on iSimangaliso, the question from me is around the extension of the park that was mentioned into Mozambique, and how that's going to contribute to our 30 by 30 goals. My sincere apologies if I've misheard or misunderstood, but how does expansion into Mozambique contribute to South Africa's conservation estate? Just please clarify that for me. And then I also just wondered how this fitted into the Lubombo Transfrontier Conservation Area, and whether this was under that program's remit, and if this was happening within that context. Thank you. And then SANBI, clearly you do very critical work that, it strikes me, spans across very many different portfolios within government. So I can see huge overlap, and some of this was mentioned on one of the slides with, for example, agriculture. Water conservation affects our water and sanitation portfolio. We've got mineral resource with the habitat and geological mapping that gets done. Energy, obviously, tourism with the different and wonderful gardens that are within your purview. I just wanted to know how healthy and lively the relationships are between SANBI across different departments and different portfolios. In terms of another specific example, How involved have the SAPS, the police, been in the succulent poaching crisis? Because as my understanding is, they've some species have almost been poached to extinction, very, very sadly. So this is an urgent issue in many cases, and just wondered the enforcement side of things, how that was being managed, and also the recent developments around the Botanical Society and the removal of free access to the botanical gardens. We don't need to get into the minutiae of that right now, but just how has that affected revenue, and is that a concern for the funding for SANBI at all? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable de Blok. Honorable Managa, can I request that the members who have already asked their question to lower their hands, please? Honorable Managa, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Chairperson, and greetings to the colleagues and the members of the department and all the people from different entities. I also welcome the presentations. I'll start with the South African Weather Services. There's a line, Honorable Chairperson, under the institutional policies and strategies. It reads, the entity is further seeking ways to improve its revenue generation through the possibility of establishing a separate commercial entity that can drive the commercial endeavors of the South African Weather Services. Honorable Chairperson, by now South African Weather Services must know, or they should be telling us as the portfolio committee, which strategies are they going to employ, or which strategies are they using, because they've been there since time immemorial. I do understand that South African Weather Services is one of the entities that were affected by the decrease of the transfer of funds to the entities from 1.4 billion to in 2023-2024 to 1.36 billion. Now the question to South African Weather Services CEO and the Chairperson is, how will this reduction in funding, or how is it affecting the projects, the programs, and also the operations that they have to undertake during these years? They also said one radar, it cost about 45 million. And they also talked about the aging infrastructure. With this reduction in funding, how are they going to purchase maybe new machineries like radars? How are they going to refurbish the aging infrastructures? To the south, to the SANParks, here in South Africa, rhino poaching is very high. However, we are seeing that the target on rhino horn data management system is not reinstated. What might be the reason of not including the target on rhino horn data management? Why did they exclude it? Chairperson, as the member of the committee, I'm also interested in getting in the reasons of them not including this rhino horn data management. Lastly, in their presentation, they said there are other 5 rhino strongholds apart from the Kruger National Park, where myself and Bomarara are just residing next to, and Bo Shonisani Bomjes. So we would like the Chairperson to take us through those other 5 stronghold centers of rhino, the rhino stronghold. The other thing that I will do is to comment these SANParks, because they are having the self-generated fund, which is about 75%. If maybe all entities were to generate revenue the way the SANParks is generating the revenue. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chair, South Africa will be far by now. It's not only the entities that are under the GFFEE that are not generating funds. We know of many other entities, but with SANParks, we are grateful that they are able to generate funds. To iSimangaliso, Honorable Chairperson, during the day, I received a phone call from one of the 200 youth who are participating in Green Sebenza project. The youth was asking me whether they are going to renew their contracts. I'm happy because the presenter said when he was presenting that he will be waiting for the appropriation bill. I think it's not fair, Honorable Chairperson, for us to have the entities to present their budget votes before we could hear from the Ministry of Treasury and before we could hear the SONA, but I understand because the time is no longer on us, it has to be done that way. Let me pause here, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you so much. The issue of I think the past two honorable members also, they covered me on the issue of iSimangaliso wildlife. I don't think it will be fair for me to repeat because they have raised the question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Manaka. Honorable Beach.
Thank you very, very much, Chair. Chair, I've also generally been covered by the previous questions. I still have a couple of my own, and I think it pertains very much to what Dr. Managa was referring to in regards to lamenting the fact that the entities are not able to generate sufficient revenue to facilitate a lot of the budget cuts that we've seen coming from the fiscus. And it's for that reason that I make a general statement. Now, we're quite new to the committee, and we look forward to really drilling down and really, getting to know the various institutions and the people that are working for them. But I get the feeling that there are certain of the APPs that could be drilled down on and unpacked a lot further to ensure that the performance management objective and ultimately the revenue creation aspect could be addressed more succinctly. And I get the feeling that some of the APPs could be considered to be quite superficial, and I'll maybe touch on a couple of them. If I may, I'd also like to start with the South African Weather Service. There was an indication of a potential revenue stream through the regulation of maritime product that could be kind of similar to the regulation that ICAO has in the aviation sphere. My question is, why is that not an APP? I think that is an excellent idea. And I echo what the Honorable Doctor indicated surrounding the creation of another economic department. I think it would be very important to perhaps first maximize the revenue streams that are currently there before kind of expanding into another kind of department within the South African Weather Service. Secondly, on weather, I was a little bit disappointed. I had the feeling that a lot of the APPs were quite conservative in their targets. where targets had been either achieved in the last financial year or exceeded. I got the feeling that the department was quite reluctant to increase those targets too far. And I would very much like to see a little bit more ambition from those targets. And I agree with the previous speakers. I would have liked to have heard from Treasury, because I'm well aware that I think all of the entities are severely undercapacitated from a financial perspective. So I can also understand why some of the kind of ambition may be tempered a little bit when it comes to the APPs. Some further examples of where we can drill down. If you look at SANParks' APP, there was specific mention of wildlife that was going to be allocated to prospective game farmers. And the number or the unit that was used there is 750. I think it might be of greater use to the department and to the committee if that could perhaps be changed. Instead of the number of head of wildlife, if we could get an indication of the number of individuals and cooperatives or communities that has been served through that program, and we could then kind of unpack that a little bit further, so that we could understand who these communities are and how they have been assisted in this regard. Then to move on from there to, for example, iSimangaliso, a similar APP surrounding the social media, where there was a target set of 500 posts. I think it would be of greater value to set perhaps, instead of just saying a number of posts, but an increase in the number of followers on social media, so as to set targets regarding activity and interaction on social media platforms. I think that would go a long way to promote the park and to allow it to be more financially sustainable in that process. So there's a number of the other APPs that have also been discussed by the various other members, and I don't want to kind of drill down on every single one of them, but I do believe that we could have had a look, and I was extremely impressed with SANBI's presentation. I feel that they really tried to unpack the various APPs and kind of drill down on them, so as to allow us to understand how the actual matrix will work, and how that will influence the business case that they are trying to performance manage. So I think let me leave it at that. I want to say again, thank you very, very much for the presentations. I thought they were all very excellent, and I really look forward to kind of getting to know each and every one of you a lot better in the coming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Pitch. I do not see any hands from the members. From my side, before I hand over to the entities to respond, I have only 3 questions. One is for South African Weather Services, and the other 2 is for SANParks. With regards to source, the department will provide 161 million capital injection during this financial year 2024-25 to you, source. Can you tell us which capital projects will this funding be allocated to, and also where are those projects located? And with SANParks, Honorable Pitch has covered me on the issue of these donated animals. My question with SANParks, and insofar as the Kruger National Park, I want to check how far has they gone to rebuild relations with the land reform communities around Kruger National Park? And the second one, how much of the targeted 10,000 hectares of land to be added to National Park is from private land and land from the land reform communities? If they can just respond to that, because we want to know which land belongs to and to who, and then what is the process that will unfold to ensure fair pricing of these hectares. Thank you very much. I will first allow Source to respond, and the others will follow as they were presenting. Can I hand over to the CEO of South African Weather Services to respond, and other colleagues if they want to assist him?
Thank you so much, Chairperson, and thank you so much for honorable members for valuable questions. And the first question related to mitigating erratic weather. In our response, in trying to do that, we do have an early warning weather that try to eliminate or mitigate or lessen the impact of weather. We timely, whenever we issue warnings, we make sure that we interact with all the disaster structures, being national, provincial, and district. So before even issuing, if there are severe weather warnings that have to be issued. And we use different platforms to make sure that timely information reach the vulnerable communities. And again, what we do also, from time to time, we do have workshops or events where we work with a disaster structure in trying to educate, and so that, like I said earlier on, it doesn't help if the information gets to people or it doesn't get to people, and the people, if it get to them, they don't respond. So we do have also various events where we partner with a disaster structure in getting the last mileage, in getting the message to the communities. So that question responds to also to the second question: how do you make sure that that information gets to the communities? We also work very closely with, I mean, you could even see in the Cape Town one, where you see the Premier and Parliament and everyone making sure that whatever we communicate gets to they help us in getting the message across. We do have, whenever there's any events, weather events, we meet, we have daily joint operation committees where we update the committees of any inclement weather and ensuring that the message get across. But we partner with the national disaster structure there, because it's also their mandate of ensuring that the message gets to the community, but we do work very closely with them. When coming to the other question of the targets reduced from what you're absolutely right, I should have mentioned that they were reduced from close to 28 targets, and now we're sitting at 12. And the ones that have been reduced are mainly relating to human capital, where we were talking about the compliance issues and those targets. So they were not talking to the core business actually. But what we did was just to take them from the actual APPs, but still have them in the operational plans. Do we have a maintenance plan or what? Yes, we do. We actually have a radar, an infrastructure plan that looks into ensuring that all our networks are looked after. If maybe I may just say here, the Weather Service has a huge observing infrastructure. We do use close to 12 radars. I think they're 11, and they're 11, my apologies. We do have close to 1,200 and something rain station, 200 and something automatic weather stations. So the coverage both inland, ocean, and atmosphere. So that's what we're talking about, the huge infrastructure behind that. And from time to time, you obviously need to look after that infrastructure. And the other question that I wanted to talk to also, of course, is this commercial one, because we want to understand whether the money that we get is enough. I'll say no, it's not and can never be enough, because you need a lot of observing network and the computing capabilities. Because the more observing network you have, that helps us in increasing our predictive capabilities. So if you don't have a good network, that impacts on your accuracy of your forecast. So we really need a huge infrastructure. In short, if I may summarize, weather service are heavily dependent on infrastructure, ICT component. So any funding model will not be enough if it's going to purely just rely on the commercial side to push it. I mean, I'm looking at other countries where they are 100% fully funded, and it's purely because of the nature of the operations of Met offices. You have to deploy a lot of infrastructure into the ocean, and it's very, very expensive. As we're talking even now, we don't have our own observing network. We rely on donations from other countries to help us to have those observing instrument into our ocean. So it's a huge, heavy infrastructure operations. And there was a question around the air quality stations. I think I'm going to talk under correction, and I can come back and confirm that. To the best of my knowledge, we are having 15 stations that we are looking for after. I mean, from a weather service perspective, and mainly from the priority areas being the Highveld, Ujanala, the Val Triangle. So of course, those are the ones that we're manning on behalf of the departments. The province on these metros, they also have them. ESCOM and SASOL, they also have their own air quality stations. And there was another question whether they are enough. When coming to observation of atmosphere, and it can never be enough. You always need more so that you can improve your accuracy. So I can never say that, no, they are enough. That question, no. But then, of course, you can couple the observation with modeling and also do some in situ measurement using remote sensing. So that you can then be able to close some of the gaps if you bring the three technologies together. There was go to issues around the funding. Honorable, you're absolutely right that we do recover almost 35% of the funding from aviation that is regulated. So when coming to the marine sector, there was a study some years back that was commissioned, and the finding thereof was that we couldn't regulate because there were already smaller companies that were in the sector. And currently, the minister did ask the current regulatory body to start to check if there has been any changes to see if there could be a possibility to regulate the sector. But we're not only waiting for that, we do work we have approached the Port Authority, and now we are providing them the services for all the port authorities through a tender. Of course, we have to go through a tender, and we were the preferred bidder for that. So we are making inroads into the marine sector. But maritime is not the same as the aviation sector, because if you look at ACAIO, where the aviation is regulated, it's in the Annexure 3 where they say we need to recover the cost. But when you look into the maritime sector, which is the International Maritime Organization as a body, being older than even the ACAIO, it doesn't have that. It says member states will provide those services for free. So it doesn't stop, of course, us to provide over and above what we said we're going to provide for free. So, but then they don't want any weight that says cost recovered. So we have been working very closely with the World Meteorological Organization to approach the International Maritime Organization to start making a case for those coastal countries to see if there cannot be a way of recovering the cost that the weather services are providing to the sector. But as you know, international negotiations and things like that, they can drag for years and years. But in the interim, we are working very hard. As we're talking, I'm happy to see that we have having taken some time to start providing certain services to the Port Authority. And I'm hoping that with time we can increase the services that we're providing.
Mr. Mpaya, can you be crisp in your responses? We will have continuous engagements. Members will have more time. Can you just be strict, because we are running out of time, and we would love all entities to respond. Please do not. I understand that you want to the members to be happy with your responses, but please try to be precise with your responses, and so that we can give other entities time.
Maybe let's do this. Others will, if we haven't covered them, give a written response. Let me give the others a chance, if you don't mind, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mpaya. Can we go to SANParks to respond, please? Colleagues, just be precise and do not elaborate much. We will have engagements. We will interact. Please, CEO.
Yes, good evening again, Honorable Chair. I'm going to request some of my colleagues to answer as well, very succinctly, some of the questions that have been put across. But I just wanted to deal with a few other questions and points that were made. In our presentation, slide number 9, we explain how it is we dealt with the APP, how the sub-outcomes and indicators were reduced and the reasons thereof. So we did move from 57 sub-outcomes to about 15 based on what the guidance we received from DPME. I would then like to answer very quickly the question of the customer satisfaction index. Last year was 78.8%. And last year, with regards to the social legacy projects, we also had a target of 6, and we achieved 6. Honorable PG, the issue of the game donations, Honorable, I think that perhaps we can provide in greater detail when we report how many individuals and communities have received these donations. So far, we have 8 communities and 40 individuals to whom we have donated. I'd like to invite, through you, Chair, Dr. Howard Hendricks, who is our Managing Executive for Conservation Services, to address the issues related to the rhino numbers. And then after him, I'll ask Ms. Liz McCourt to just explain how and why it is we moved our target with regards to wetlands rehabilitation. We changed the measure from a cubic meter size to the actual number of wetlands that we will rehabilitate. So if she can touch on that. Dr. Hendricks, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Sello.
And Dr. Hendricks, can you also deal with the land expansion question that Honorable Ganjo asked? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sello. Please be precise, Doctor.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair, and good evening, honorable members, and all the others participating in this platform. I'll be brief, Chair. It's a very good question around the rhinos. We're seeing some positive feedback on the rhinos. Currently, we have on average 2,000 white rhinos and about 500 black rhinos throughout all our national park system. What we've seen last year, if we compare what's happening now compared to the previous years, we're seeing that our white rhino population is stabilizing. In the past year, we've only seen a drop of 37 animals. So we believe that our white rhino population is stabilizing. Our black rhino are doing very well. They're increasing around about 10% per annum that we've seen recently. So definitely it seems like our rhino, especially our white rhino population, is definitely stabilizing. Chair, I just need to indicate that we do have different other rhino parks where rhinos are, but we also have what we call rhino strongholds. These are partners, whether it's entities like the Eastern Cape ECTPA, that we also have meta-population management, specifically around the black rhino by corners. But then we also have emerging game farmers, both in Eastern Cape as well as in the Northern Cape. And then we also have a stronghold in the Barberton area. Just to reflect on the hectareage, the 10,000 hectareage, which is also a good question. Chair, what happens with a target of 10,000 hectares? We've identified several properties throughout our national park system. We've identified approximately 35,000 hectares around some of our national parks, and these include Addo, Bontebok, Gardenroute, Marikele, Mokala, and Mountain Zebra. But we've also identified 52,000 hectares of communal land, where we identified several communities of inclusion. And the whole strategy is when these properties do become available, not just based on pricing, but whether there's a donation, then we obviously include it into our national park. So any of these, either 35,000 hectares of private land around our national parks or the 52,000 hectares of communal land, we then include that as part of our target for the current financial year. Chair, I hope I've responded. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hendricks. The third speaker, sorry.
Good evening. Good evening, Honourable Chair, Honourable Minister, Honourable Deputy Minister, and all honourable members. Lisa McCourt, the CEO of SANParks here. Yes, I just want to indicate in terms of the wetlands that the wetlands target was previously expressed in cubic meters. This metric is linked to the national environmental programs. It's an expanded public works program called Working on Wetlands. And the 7,200 cubic meters that we've achieved last year was spread over 34 wetlands, but it was portions of wetlands that was rehabilitated in that meters. Due to the national metric changing to the number fully rehabilitated, and also the cut in the budget on EPWP, the number has been set for 20 in the current financial year. Then also just in terms of the social legacy projects, we have achieved the 6. It's a wide ranging from community bursaries to specific infrastructure and learning opportunities. We've targeted 6 last year and achieved 6. And the same target is being maintained based on the ratios of the conservation fund that we can use for this purpose. So, Chair, as we've indicated previously, I think a briefing on our socio-economic transformation program at a future stage would shed quite more light on this aspects of our work. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. McCord. iSimangaliso. Mr. Bukosini.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you, Chair. I think that the issue on the EKZN wildlife situation has been indicated. I think it's an issue that needs to be looked at quite thoroughly because it involves the amendment and the review, especially of the World Heritage Convention Act and the regulations, because those functions, as I indicated earlier on, are entrenched, especially on those regulations that I mentioned. So I think it's an issue that needs to be looked into there. However, on the issue of the commercialization, I think we have made a step already in that regard because agreements have been signed between ourselves and SANVelo, and we are now starting a process of taking over those facilities. And I mentioned the commercialization strategy that we are now embarking on. The issue of the extension and how it contributes to the 30 by 30, as we know, the 30 by 30 is a GBF, the Global Biodiversity Framework target that we resolved as a Montreal target, that every member state must contribute at least 30% by 2030. So the fact that now iSimangaliso is extending to Mozambique does not necessarily make South Africa to contribute, does not add into the contribution of South Africa, but adds in ensuring that the other member state continues to do conservation in their area, especially because we know that the area that we're talking about, at some point, it was there was a thinking of the building of the harbor and the mining, and it's a conservation area. So the fact that we're now bringing it to conservation, it means that one of the conditions, those things or those activities are not going to take place. And if that doesn't take place, it means that that area is going to continue being a parcel, or land is going to be a parcel for conservation, and it will continue being a contribution of the member state to the global target of the 30 by 30. On the Groen Sabenza, I think one honourable member did mention quite succinctly and very importantly that one of the challenges again is to work on these APPs when the appropriation bill has not been properly finalized. It really makes them to be preliminary APPs, basically, because I would imagine that once that has been finalized, for instance, in the context of iSimangaliso, there's about 58 million that sits in the goods and services, but cannot be transferred to iSimangaliso until the appropriation bill is finalized. And if the appropriation bill is not finalized, it means that we cannot implement the 200, which is on the APP. So those are the challenges that I think we need to be looking at there. The honorable pitch, when you're talking about, you would have loved to see a situation where we say increase on followers. I think that makes a lot of sense. However, the challenge when you're formulating the APP, one of the fundamental principles is that you need to be looking at issues where you have full control. I'll just make an example. If SANParks were to say, we will increase the number of black rhino by 500, it means that SANParks says they have direct control on the birth of the black rhinos, on the birth rate and so on, which is not necessarily the case. However, we do take note of that, that in certain areas we need to be more emphatic and be more specific so that we ensure that these APPs are more realistic. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bukosini. SANBI, Mr. Muntetsi.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Please, you can unmute now. The first observation which I want to reflect on is coming from Honorable De Block on the aspect that affirms the point that SANBI's work cuts across multi-sectors and is multi-sectoral. Of course, all sectors, I mean, we always argue, and it's true, whether it's economic or social sectors or natural sectors, across the board, we work with, and our strategies are framed in a manner that allows for framed arrangements and agreements that can be reflected through MOUs, agreements, contracts. Some of them do have returns on the basis of services that we provide with the police services, of course, the forensic work that we do from our DNA analysis and the work on genomics does also have certain returns. The science policy aspect that we keep on emphasizing, evidence-based decision-making, science policy, and influence to actions, influence to policies, approaches, processes, practices, all of those cut across all sectors, and some of them were cited, from tourism, even sectors beyond government, universities. Of course, we signed MOUs specifically to expand the network of partners in that regard that we work with. It's quite structured in that form, programmatic and also strategic in that area. So that's all the slides from the beginning that we didn't talk to up to slide number 35, 36 will affirm the same, hence the influence that SANBI has across the board. The second, there was a question that was asked about Botso and the changes, adjustments that we've made on access. I just want to confirm that in that process we've worked and we continue to work with Botso as a partner. It was a consultative process that was open. Nothing was hidden in that. We believe that the current membership system that was introduced has more added benefits than the benefits before, in that with that membership card that runs for a year, an individual can access all gardens with the same membership freely after paying that membership card. I mean, for that membership card, including the National Zoological Gardens. There are added benefits to that effect. And the uptake we've seen is growing. And in this case, we also help with Botso in the promotion in that regard. Life members still get free access that we've maintained, including their guests, of course, qualified in terms of numbers, and that still remains as free. Tuesdays are free for pensioners across the board in botanical gardens. So that still remains. We continue to work with Botso on a number of other programs, the crew program and others. The volunteers program is also there. in partnership with the volunteers, most of those are part of the Botanical Society of South Africa. I will ask Dr. Teresa Franz to speak to the issue related to succulent poaching and also the role of SAPs in that space and the strategy itself. Dr. T and the CFO may come in, but I think it's still too early for us to give precise numbers as to whether there is an impact in terms of financial aspects of the changes in admission fees. But over a period of time, we continue to assess, but we are convinced that that was the right decision. And the new system, I think, will usher in more benefits comparatively. Dr. T, Teresa?
Thank you, CE, and thank you, Honourable Chair. SANBI enjoys a good relationship and understanding with SAPs. And in the context of the succulents, SANBI receives confiscated succulent plants at our National Botanical Gardens from SAPs. The plants are treated as evidence, and therefore there is a chain of custody from SAPs to SANBI. SANBI then analyzes the evidence, and we provide an expert statement on the species, the number of plants per species, and that expert statement is then used to support prosecutions by the NPA. So in a nutshell, Honourable Chair, we do have a good understanding with SAPs and we work well on the issue of succulents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. CFO?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I think the CE was indeed correct, Chair. We have just introduced the membership card now, so we're just noting the uptake of it. We will be doing an assessment half yearly of where we are in terms of our target, and it's only then that we'll be able to provide precise numbers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Sedita. Honourable members, I don't want you to be hard on yourselves and to put pressure on yourselves. The workshop will be organized for the committee, and where you will have to get to know each department and its entities better. So I know that you have hit the ground running. You want to know everything, but don't put pressure on yourselves. You will also get to meet the stakeholders in the sector. So let's just, because now the time is 12 minutes past 9, and I still want to check whether the minister and the deputy ministers wants to have a bite so that we can conclude. But if there's any follow-up questions, I just want to check. I don't want to close you to close that. Is there any follow-up questions? Dr. Managa?
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much, Chairperson. I raised my hand before the next speaker responded. I wanted to say, let's not suppress the South African Weather Services. Remember, we are now faced with our mini plenaries. We are supposed to go and do our debates. I thought maybe the questions that we asked, the response that they are giving are gonna ask us when we do the preparations for our debates. So I wanted to say, let's allow the presenters to respond to all the questions that we have asked. The first thing that I wanted to check with you is how many minutes were we left with the time that the SANParks
we were supposed to finish by 9, Doctor. We were supposed to finish by 9.
Okay.
Now we have gone
It's 14
through past through 9. Yes, we were supposed to finish by 9.
Okay.
Which means we were left with we are not going to go beyond half past.
Yes.
That's why I wanted to also give to the minister and the deputy ministers.
I'm happy because all the presenters, they responded to all the questions that we've raised. The ones that followed the SANParks. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. I see. Oh, Deputy Minister Singh. I see your hand.
Yes, Dora, thank you very much, Chairperson. And I just want to appreciate the commitment of the members of the Portfolio Committee and our staff and the Minister. I think, as an honourable member said earlier on, we've had presentations for about 6 hours, and I don't think many other committees have gone through this kind of briefing. But we understand, and we want you to appreciate that because of the circumstances that we find ourselves in, that the budget has to be passed by a certain time. We have to go through this process quite hurriedly. But I think from our side, I want to give you the assurance that we will continue engagement with yourselves, and written responses will, as far as possible, be given by the weekend. So those members who haven't had responses will receive the responses in writing before your committee considers this report, and we have the debate on Monday. But having said that, I will defer to the Minister to make his remarks. Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable members of the Portfolio Committee.
Thank you, TM Singh. I see the hand of the Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm very mindful of the time, so I'll be very brief. I would just like to say thank you very much for the engagement, and thank you very much for the very in-depth questions, etc. And I really look forward to engaging with the committee in greater depth over time. I would also like to say, as I mentioned previously, is that we would be honoured if we can invite the committee to a day session where we would then be able to take you through more of the detail in terms of what the various entities and departments do. As has been mentioned, it's taken us a long time to cover this material because we are a very large department. But we would be honoured if you would join us for a day session. We can go into more detail. Thank you very much, members of the committee, and thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Minister and Deputy Minister, for your inputs. Honourable members, I think we have now reached the end of our meeting. But before I close officially, I just want to make a proposal. Remember, we have to adopt our report as the committee before we go for debate on Monday. I would like to make a proposal that tomorrow we just have a short 30-minute meeting to adopt our report. Let's give the staff and the officials a chance to prepare the report. Then 6 o'clock we meet just to adopt the report. That is my proposal. I want to check with the members if that is fine.
Fine with me, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll second the Chair.
Okay, thank you. That's it, honourable members. We will meet tomorrow 6 o'clock to adopt our report. Let me take this opportunity, honourable members and colleagues, to thank all of you for honouring this meeting and thank the presenters with their report. We will meet timelessly and engage some of the reports. We will also embark on the oversights because in some of the areas we'll have to visit as the Portfolio Committee. But thank you very much for your commitment, and thank you for Deputy Ministers and Minister for your inputs as well. Thank you, Kileka, and the staff of the committee. Thank you very much, and have a good night, all of you. Thank you very much for your commitment.
Good night.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you all. Thank you, Chairperson.
Bye, Chair.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Sibonga kakhulu.
Siyabonga, siyabonga tata.
Recording stopped.
Phew.